On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Dean Stanton, one of Hollywood's most enduring character actors, passed away on September 15, 2017, at the age of 91. His death was from natural causes, the quiet end of a long and extraordinary career that had spanned more than 6 decades. Unlike figures whose lives ended suddenly or violently, Stanton's passing reflected a different truth of his era: longevity and persistence in a notoriously fleeting industry. At a time when many actors were typecast or forgotten, Stanton embodied resilience, carving out a space for himself by embracing the understated, the weary, and the human in every role. Stanton's career mirrored post-war America's shifting identity. Beginning in westerns and war films, he later became an icon of countercultural and independent cinema. His haunting performance in Wim Wenders's Paris, Texas, 1984, epitomized the alienation and yearning of late 20th century America, while his roles in Alien, 1979, and Repo Man, 1984, cemented his place in genre-defining classics. His death symbolized not just the loss of a beloved performer, but the closing of a chapter in American cinema that valued character actors as much as marquee stars. The immediate consequence of his passing was an outpouring of tributes from directors, actors, and fans alike. David Lynch, who cast Stanton frequently, remarked that, "There's nobody like Harry Dean." Tributes highlighted not only his talent, but also his role as a cultural touchstone, representing authenticity and humility in an industry often defined by spectacle. His death amplified his legend, as audiences revisited his films and recognized the through line of his career, a portrayal of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. Stanton's passing also reflected broader truths about mortality and legacy. While he never sought celebrity, his work became immortalized precisely because of its honesty. His death underscored the power of endurance, how a quiet, steady contribution can leave as indelible a mark as explosive fame. In this sense, Stanton's life and career exemplify a different relationship between humanity and memory, one that values authenticity and depth over flash. We immortalize Dean Stanton not only through the films he left behind, but also in the way his presence lingers in popular imagination. His face, etched with experience, became a canvas for stories about loss, resilience, and human vulnerability. In remembering him, we are reminded that mortality does not erase such truths. It sharpens them, allowing art to carry forward the essence of those who once gave life to it. Tito Jackson died suddenly at 70 after suffering a medical emergency during a road trip, reported as a fatal heart attack, near a shopping plaza in Gallup, New Mexico. He had been driving with a business partner transporting a collection of antique cars from California to his home in Oklahoma when he complained of chest pains, was taken by ambulance to a local hospital, and was later pronounced dead. The immediacy and ordinary setting of his passing, on the road amid errands, underscores how natural causes can strike even the most public lives without warning. Tito's death reflected several era-specific truths. As a founding member of the Jackson 5, he embodied the Motown era's blend of polished showmanship and working-class grit. His long career also mirrored how mid-century pop stars aged into multi-decade public lives, often performing into their later years. The fact he was actively touring and handling business matters at 70 speaks to contemporary expectations that artists remain visible and economically engaged well past classical retirement, sometimes at the cost of health and rest. The immediate consequences were a global outpouring of grief and a renewed focus on his musical contributions beyond family headlines. Tributes from fellow musicians, family members, and media emphasized Tito's steady musicianship, the rhythm guitar and grounding presence that helped launch the Jackson 5's early chart domination, and his later work in blues and solo projects. His sons and surviving siblings publicly mourned, and news coverage revisited the group's cultural importance. "I Want You Back," ABC and "I'll Be There" reclaimed airwaves as fans reconnected with the music. In death, Tito's legend both broadened and refocused. He had long been shadowed by Michael's superstar aura. His passing prompted reassessment of his musical role, family stewardship, and decades of live performance, closing a chapter in a dynasty that shaped global pop. More broadly, his death reveals how mortality flattens celebrity into common humanity while memory elevates contribution. Recordings, concerts, documentaries, and family remembrances become the architecture of immortality. We immortalize Tito through recordings that keep his guitar and backing vocals in circulation, through tribute shows and archival retrospectives, and through the family narratives that anchor cultural memory, showing that art, more than myth, secures a lasting place in history. Johnny Ramone died at age 55 after a long battle with prostate cancer. His death was the culmination of a nearly 5-year struggle with the illness, one he fought privately while continuing to make appearances within the punk rock community. Unlike the violent or sudden deaths often associated with rock culture, Johnny's passing was due to natural causes, though accelerated by disease, highlighting the fact that even figures who defined rebellion and energy in youth must face the inexorable realities of aging and mortality. Johnny's death reflected the contradictions of his era. As the guitarist for the Ramones, he helped pioneer the minimalist, aggressive sound of punk in the 1970s, a rejection of the excesses of mainstream rock. Yet by the early 2000s, punk had become part of the cultural canon, celebrated in museums, documentaries, and even mainstream fashion. His illness and death demonstrated how a movement once rooted in youthful defiance had matured into a legacy remembered by multiple generations. The immediate consequences of his passing were profound within the music world. Johnny was the third member of the Ramones to die within a short span, following Joey Ramone in 2001 and Dee Dee Ramone in 2002. His death underscored the sense of finality for fans who had already begun mourning the group's dissolution. Tributes poured in from musicians across genres, from punk successors like Green Day to icons of heavier music such as Metallica, who cited the Ramones as essential influences. His passing also accelerated efforts to solidify the Ramones' legacy in American cultural memory, reinforcing their status as one of the most influential rock bands of the 20th century. Johnny Ramone's death amplified his legend by cementing the Ramones as martyrs of authenticity. Unlike some rock stars whose fame hinged on flamboyant excess, Johnny was remembered for his discipline, his unwavering stage presence, and his famously strict downstroke guitar technique. In dying relatively young, he became part of a broader narrative of punk's brevity, an art form that burned bright but often ended too soon. Ultimately, Johnny's death reveals humanity's enduring impulse to enshrine artists who challenge convention. We immortalize him through murals, biographies, documentaries, and especially through the music itself. Songs like Blitzkrieg Bop and I Want to Be Sedated, which continue to echo through arenas and headphones. His departure reminds us that while mortality humbles even the fiercest rebels, memory and art ensure their defiance lives on. John Hoyt was an American actor whose career spanned theater, film, and television. He passed away at the age of 85 in Santa Cruz, California, from natural causes. His death reflected the quiet dignity of a performer who had spent decades in supporting roles rather than in the spotlight. Unlike the tragic or violent deaths of many Hollywood figures, Hoyt's was peaceful, a reminder that not all influential performers leave the world in turmoil, but instead in a manner that mirrors the steady professionalism of their lives. Hoyt's career embodied the challenges and values of mid-20th century Hollywood. Having begun as a Shakespearean actor and later transitioning into film, he became known for his versatility, portraying stern authority figures, intellectuals, and even comedic characters. His death in 1991 came at a time when television was rapidly evolving and the early generations of Hollywood actors were being remembered for their foundational role in shaping modern entertainment. Hoyt's passing symbolized the fading of an era in which character actors like him formed the backbone of Hollywood storytelling. The immediate consequences of his death were not marked by sensational headlines but by quiet recognition among fans of classic television and film. Hoyt had appeared in a wide range of productions from Spartacus, 1960, to Star Trek, the original series, where he played Dr. Philip Boyce in the pilot episode The Cage. His contributions to science fiction in particular gave him a lasting presence in fan communities. While his passing did not shift the course of history, it underscored the importance of actors whose steady contributions support cultural milestones. In many ways, Hoyt's death amplified his legend as part of the collective memory of Hollywood's unsung talents. Fans and historians alike revisit his performances to appreciate the subtlety he brought to every role, reminding us that not all legacies are built on celebrity alone. Some are built on craft and dependability. Reflecting on Hoyt's passing reveals how humanity values both the extraordinary and the understated. While we immortalize great stars through grand monuments, we also preserve the memory of steady contributors through film, archives, reruns, and dedicated fan appreciation. John Hoyt's career and death remind us that memory is not only about power or fame, but about the lasting resonance of one's work, captured forever in the art of storytelling. Ric Ocasek was a defining voice of late 20th century rock as the lead singer, rhythm guitarist, and principal songwriter of The Cars. His death at the age of 75 in his New York City townhouse was ruled natural, caused by cardiovascular disease with contributing emphysema. Unlike the violent or scandalous deaths that often dominate rock history, Ocasek's passing reflected a quieter truth. Even icons who once embodied youth and rebellion ultimately faced the same frailties of aging and illness that define the human condition. Ocasek's life and death symbolized the values of his era, particularly the shift in music from the raw rebellion of the 1960s to the sleek innovation of the late 1970s and 1980s. With The Cars, he helped pioneer the fusion of rock and new wave, balancing the rise of synthesizers with guitar-driven hooks. His sudden death, coming just after hip surgery and while still in recovery, underscored how even seemingly private figures remain cultural landmarks. News of his passing reverberated through the music world, drawing tributes from fans and fellow musicians who recognized his role in reshaping popular soundscapes. The immediate consequences of Ocasek's passing were not only an outpouring of grief, but also a renewed celebration of his work. Songs like Just What I Needed and Drive surged in streams, reminding listeners of the enduring freshness of his songwriting. His death amplified his legend by recentering The Cars within the broader narrative of rock's evolution, bridging the analog and digital eras of music production. For a generation that grew up with MTV, his image and sound represented a turning point in how music was both created and consumed. Ocasek's legacy is immortalized not only in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which inducted the Cars in 2018, but also in the way his music continues to soundtrack films, television, and everyday life. His passing highlights how mortality intersects with memory. Death may close a life, but art extends it indefinitely. Humanity often immortalizes such figures through commemoration, but more importantly, through the continued circulation of their creations. Ric Ocasek's death reminds us that while the body may fail, the cultural echoes of innovation remain timeless, shaping identity across generations. Dudley Sutton was a British actor celebrated for his versatility on stage, film, and television. Sutton passed away at the age of 85 due to natural causes, marking the end of a career that had spanned over 6 decades. Unlike actors whose lives ended abruptly or violently, Sutton's death was peaceful, a fitting conclusion to a life defined by dedication to craft rather than celebrity spectacle. His passing reflected the quiet dignity often associated with character actors of his generation, who contributed profoundly to British culture without necessarily commanding the headlines. Sutton's career mirrored the challenges and values of post-war Britain. Having emerged in the 1960s, he navigated an entertainment industry undergoing rapid transformation, where theater, television, and film were intersecting in new ways. He became known for portraying complex, sometimes morally ambiguous characters, exemplified in roles such as his work in Lovejoy, Romance of the Damned, and stage productions like Sleuth. His death underscored the passage of an era in British acting, where the prominence of classical training and stage discipline gave way to more cinematic and commercially driven productions. The immediate consequences of Sutton's passing were felt most strongly in the arts community, as colleagues and fans alike reflected on his distinctive presence and the depth he brought to supporting roles. While his death did not alter the trajectory of history, it served as a reminder of the enduring importance of actors whose work supports and elevates cultural narratives. Tributes highlighted the warmth, humor, and gravitas he consistently brought to his roles, reinforcing his status as a cherished figure among both audiences and fellow artists. Sutton's death illustrates humanity's complex relationship with mortality and memory. Though physical presence is finite, the performances he left behind continue to resonate. We immortalize figures like Dudley Sutton, not only through recorded media, but also through the recollection of his performances in literature, retrospectives, and fan culture. His passing reminds us that the legacy of art often outlives the artist, preserving the human stories they help tell and ensuring that their contributions remain influential for future generations. Sutton's life and death exemplify how enduring memory is often constructed through dedication, craft, and cultural impact rather than fleeting fame. Frances Bay was a Canadian-American character actress whose career spanned more than 6 decades, encompassing film, television, and stage. She passed away at the age of 92 in her Los Angeles home from natural causes, leaving behind a legacy of memorable performances characterized by both comedic timing and emotional depth. Her death marked the end of a life that had weathered both personal and professional challenges, reflecting an era when women in Hollywood often had to navigate limited opportunities and ageist industry norms. Bay's career trajectory mirrored the evolving landscape of the 20th century entertainment industry. After overcoming early hardships, including a late start in acting following years of personal responsibilities, she became a beloved supporting actress, often portraying grandmothers, eccentric neighbors, or quirky matriarchs. Her work in television shows like Seinfeld, Cheers, and The Wonder Years, as well as films such as Happy Gilmore, highlighted her adaptability across genres. Her death underscored both the natural passage of time and the enduring contributions of character actors who, while not always household names, are central to storytelling and cultural memory. The immediate consequences of Bay's passing were seen in the outpouring of recognition from fans, colleagues, and media outlets. Obituaries and retrospectives celebrated her ability to leave a lasting impression in small yet significant roles, demonstrating the often underappreciated influence of supporting actors. While her death did not alter the course of history, it amplified her legacy, prompting renewed appreciation for the subtle artistry she brought to every performance and for the representation of older women in media, a demographic often marginalized in Hollywood narratives. Frances Bay's life and passing illuminate humanity's ongoing negotiation with mortality, legacy, and memory. She reminds us that fame is not the sole measure of impact. Consistent dedication and skill can achieve cultural immortality. Through the preservation of her performances in film and television archives, literature discussing her career, and continued appreciation by new generations of viewers, Bay's artistry endures. Her death demonstrates that while human life is finite, the influence of one's craft, especially when imbued with authenticity and charm, resonates far beyond the individual, becoming a lasting part of collective memory.